A very good morning to you, and thank you so much for keeping it NBS Television. This is the Morning Breeze, your most authoritative morning current affairs show, and of course it's time for the Media Round Table. I have a distinguished panel of gentlemen that I will be having a conversation with as we take through some of the stories that have made headlines. It's definitely a political season. The political parties have now officially started releasing their roadmaps and looking at what they will do. Just earlier on, we were having a conversation with Tracy over independence and how, you know, parties are saying they're going to buy independence. And I was thinking, if the Constitution allows for them and they have the leeway, if they feel that they're being mistreated or they're not being treated right in their political parties, they will definitely be able to move on and become independent. And then when you need numbers in parliament, you will start saying, oh, this one is NRM leaning, this one is FDC leaning, or whatever it is. But also, as the National Resistance Movement did release its roadmap, it did release a roadmap with hiked fees. For example, members of parliament in the last election who paid 2 million shillings will now have to pay up to 3 million shillings. For presidential candidates, that's at nomination. For presidential candidates, you have to cough out a 20 million shillings bag for you to be able to get nominated right there. I think they kept the Lord Mayor's fee at the same price, at about 1.5 million shillings there. And so many other you know, figures that did come through that some people believe and think that they are a little bit deterring for some people who would have loved to participate. And remembering well that the conversation about monetization of politics is one that has been talked about as excluding some people who would have loved to join, that there is a lot of money that is involved in the politics of the country. That's a conversation that we want to be getting into. Is it a way of trying to sieve out those who can afford or those who will be able to stand, or is it another inhibiting factor to ensuring that people can freely be able to engage in the politics of the country? But also, we will be talking about the different roadmaps of different political parties that have come through. Are we already in 2026, or, you know, 2026 may just be a date for the election itself, but we are already in the entire period, and how this is actually going to be playing out. And ladies and gentlemen, allow me let you in on my panel, which you definitely already know about. I'll start with my immediate right, Raymond Mujuni. It's always a pleasure to have you here. He's a senior journalist and deputy executive director of the African Institute for Investigative Journalism. But that is a mouthful.
You can just say I'm a father of two and married to a beautiful wife. Full stop.
He's a father of two and married to a beautiful. Yes, that's the most important.
Yes, thank you so much
how
for
are you
having
doing?
me.
And it's a pleasure.
I'm doing great. I've made my quarterly appearance, as I told you. Every quarter I come here once, and here I am.
Really?
Yes.
Really? No, I'll need to check with the producer. I need to check with the producer.
Yes.
I also have Timothy Chimonges, a senior journalist, and of course, if you pay attention to Parliament Watch, definitely they're the people. This week we were asking, where are our members of Parliament? This whole idea of just looking at those turquoise green chairs empty.
Yeah.
Why did we purchase the clock-in machine? But anyway, good morning to you, and thank you so much for sparing your time.
Thank you, Mildred. I'm glad to be here, and greetings from the team. And we are very, very energized to go for the upcoming elections in the coverages.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. When you say Richard Baguma seated in that chair and not the very extreme one, you know the person who is seated in the extreme one was the last to come. Because he literally has it's like he has super glue in the last chair of the show. But still, Richard Baguma is a senior journalist and a media trainer. I mean, it's been quite a lot with him in this industry, and we are always humbled to have your presence. A very good morning.
So I would explain away the sitting position. First is Chemonges, my neighbor. We are in spaces together, which are extremely important during Easter now.
During Easter?
Yeah, one is the space of road safety. We both are executive committee members of the Road Safety Coalition of Uganda. And we are also both into alcohol control as part of the Uganda Alcohol Policy Alliance. So we are saying don't drink and drive, but don't drive recklessly.
Yes.
But of course, being here is always mediated by the Almighty first. God enables us to be here. Kataha might be not be as religious. But certainly God is the one I thank first. I thank the viewers. I can tell you the feedback I get can be sometimes disturbing. On my coffee, then people walk over. So thank you for patronizing us.
Yeah, sure.
And I'm glad to be here.
Thank you so much for also patronizing us as the Media Roundtable. And Derek Wandera, the season is on. Should Busia wait? Should we make the official announcement? I mean, just free of charge like that. But anyway, a very good morning to you, Derek.
You have thrown jabs at me and I was looking at you. Mildred, Busia is good. So many things are happening there. Yeah. When the right time comes, we shall certainly speak up.
Which side of Busia? Kenya or Uganda?
I know.
Somewhere in the middle
I was
there.
also thinking about the proximity itself.
You know when you get challenged this side, you just cross over.
Yeah,
so it is anywhere around there.
You just cross over.
It's always a pleasure being here, and thanks for having me, Mildred.
Thank you so much. And when Raymond talked about the side of Kenya, I remembered the rants that Gachagua is throwing around, and he says he has some footage that he recorded and lots of things that are coming through. We can't wait. But also, I think we need to pray for Kenya. In a way or two, let's pray for Kenya and wait for what will be coming through. But ladies and gentlemen, let's get back to Uganda's case, where we are smelling, that point in time where the coffee is being brewed and you definitely can smell it from afar. That is exactly what we are going through with our election season. But looks like we've started off on a note of still speaking about the cost of joining politics or the cost of participating in politics, whether that does get to determine the kind of leaders that we will get, or it actually gets to lock out so many of the other leaders. And this is in the conversation about nomination fees. No wonder the National Unity Platform has come through to say, us, we will nominate free of charge. But then I am thinking, I will take that statement with a pinch of salt up until we can be able to have all the evidence. And Raymond, I want to start off with you. The conversation about money and politics and its role has been in twofold. Some thinking, let's not every Tom, Dick and Harry be able to come and participate because you've made it too cheap. But others believing and thinking that, yes, there are some few people who would have loved to come and contribute, but probably they do not have the kind of money. That is at nomination, even for Electoral Commission. But then there is also the one that comes in on how much you are going to be able to spend in the general election. Is it an inhibiting factor, or we are just trying to set a bar for the kind of leaders that we will have?
I tend to sympathize with politicians, and this is through years of experience covering our politics. One of the biggest problems is that the member of parliament is essentially looked at as a government in their constituency. So when people have health problems, they can't pay their hospital bills, they will run to the member of parliament. When they can't pay their education bills, they will go to the member of parliament. Now, because our decentralization system hasn't worked so well, you have members of parliament inheriting what should ideally be the roles of government in the constituencies. Now, that has had an impact on politics in constituencies, rural constituencies. I joked here last time. I went to my constituency and I found people who had been asking our member of parliament for something to contribute. It was a charity cause. I believed in the charity cause, so I contributed to the cause. And immediately I contributed to the cause, there was this conflict. People thinking that I was going to run in the election.
You're starting to
Yes,
show
that I'm
interest.
starting to show. But an election is very expensive thing, and it's not just because of the parties. The parties themselves need money to be able to convince voters to come first and vote for them. They need money to go and give services to areas. You've promised people boreholes, you've promised people contributions in churches. Your parish priest, if you're running in a parish, your parish priest there has a fundraiser, then you break them down from the parish into every small church. There is a leader at the church who's also running their own fundraiser. So you end up spending a lot of money naturally to become a member of parliament. Now, anyone who wants to challenge you to become the member of parliament must spend more than you, or must bring ideas that are very different from you. And I don't think that our politics has developed to a point where people say we're ready to listen to different ideas. And I don't even think that elections are going to become cheaper, because when you see the urban constituencies like Kampala, for example, my friend is going to run in Kampala Central. His budget is nowhere short of 1 billion shillings.
Wow.
I don't know where he's going to get that money, but he has to run. And he's running on a ticket which typically gives off the winning ticket, the National Unity Platform. So those things, if the urban constituencies are becoming this expensive, the rural constituencies are only following in their footsteps. What's happening is that the people who can't run in the urban constituencies are carrying their money and going into the rural constituencies to unseat people there. And I think you can't wish away money in our politics. Of course, morally, it's a bad thing to raise a lot of money and spend it in election, bribe people. But realistically, you can't wish it away. You can't wish it away. If
it's a necessary evil.
Yes, if you want a perfect example, come to Fort Portal. In the last election, we had a mayor who was, of course, a Reverend Father. And he was spending a lot of money too to get elected. And the day he stopped spending money, people kicked him out.
Oh, wow.
People kicked him out, yeah. So these voters, they want all kinds of social services delivered by the member of parliament.
So who is pushing this demand? Is it the electorate? Is it the system in essence and the way it is constructed, or the players themselves?
Mildred, the average election in a member of parliament contest has about 15,000 voters. So you need to win it with anywhere between 9,000 to 10,000 voters. That is in many constituencies. That's the average. Now, to get 9,000 voters, you need to have first women circle groups, because that's where they consolidate from. Women circle groups, church circle groups, and then you combine that with this urban support that might come from borders, traders and the like. To be able to get those people to support you, you need one to fund their circles.
Yeah.
They already have existing circles. The circles have debts. People have large debt burdens. And those are the people who have legitimacy in the constituency. You, the member of parliament candidate, you don't have as much legitimacy in that constituency. These people meet every day. They will meet at women member groups. They will meet at district security committees. They will be talking about your candidature. And for positive light to come to your candidature, you need to spend money. Yes, so it's not a problem of the members of parliament, it's a problem of the voters. And it's also a problem that the services are not decentralized well enough, so that you can rely on government to say, government has put in place these kinds of policy measures to try and solve this problem. You can say, for example, government has sent money for capitation grant for UPE. You can't rely on that in your campaign. People will say that is central government money. Where is your money in the campaign? So that's what makes the candidates very expensive. And I don't think it's going away.
Okay. Thank you very much. Timothy, is this to get us the creme de la creme, or to get us those who would be capable, or is it to only identify politics as a place for those who have, and those who do not have the money, I mean particularly, but do have the ideas, are left aside?
Yeah. I mean, the currency today of politics is purely money, as highlighted. But also, we've made arguments before that things don't go wrong, things start wrong. And that if the election process starts from a financing point of view, it is managed in that manner and ends in that manner. What that means also is that it compromises the would-be objective of the leadership that takes on this kind of position and the delivery of that mandate. And so when it comes to, again, recently the organization called ACFIM released the report on the cost of election.
Yeah.
And an average member of parliament should be spending around 500 million. That would actually, depending on the region...
That's half of a billion shillings.
Half of a billion, and it's worse if you look at different regions. If you're in the western region, it slightly goes up, of maybe around 700, 800 million. Maybe the east, the north, it's slightly lower. And so it tells you that you need money to be elected as a member of parliament, even let alone either trying to pay out some of the or maybe you'd call maybe advantages that you would get in an election period, but just to facilitate, facilitating, ensuring that sometimes elections you have to start almost 2 to 3 years before, you are trying to engage the community groups, so there's a lot of money that goes into this. So what that means is that service delivery is greatly compromised. This week we've been discussing the absenteeism in parliament. And part of that is to say that we are already in the election period and members are trying to ensure that they can canvass votes within the constituency.
Yeah.
What that means also is that what they would be doing in the National Assembly is compromised for their sake to go to the constituency.
Yeah.
And so the question of financing and the question of election has now been summarized to those who have the money and they can be able to finance. And again, of course, it leaves out so many other people who would have offered maybe leadership. But now,
Timothy, you mentioned and said things don't go wrong, they start wrong. But I'm trying to look back on the kind of election expenditure. It's just been on an upward trend. Meaning, yes, we started somewhere. Back in the day, we've been told of leaders who would literally be forced to get in. The people would be able to, contribute to your cause and just let you go and become the leader. It is not the same kind of case right now. What could have flipped the coin to look at leadership in the realm of giving your all, give us as well our share, then you can become a leader, as opposed to, I think Richard has the potential, let's support him, let's push him to go and take on the mantle.
I think a couple of things really inform that, but close to my mind are the competitive nature that the election has taken over time. And it seems to be a do or die. And to that end, something has to give in. And what that means usually, especially if it comes to such a context, you look at the question of financing, and it seems to be the immediate benefit that the electorate would be looking at. Of course, the other would be how the government has been able to administer most of these services, including ensuring that the programs, the benefits, or any of these things that a constituent should be getting, or the public should be receiving, are actually received as planned. Sometimes most of those are not realized as they should be. But also what that has done is that it has made the MP to be a savior of some sort, and not just limiting the elections to a member of parliament, but using them as an example. You have leaders being viewed as saviors to address specific issues or immediate issues of a community. And to that end, you find that also there's also this perception that there's a lot of money, that leaders, specifically in parliament and in the executive, receive. And so it tells you that many people, are gravitated towards going for this money. Yeah. And it can only get worse, especially if the economy or if the people seem not to have alternative. You'll have everyone I'm engaging with seem to suggest they want to be elected, and it's a narrative that goes on. So I think there's a problem in how the system has been able to be configured as of now.
Okay, thank you. Let me come to Derek. Is it the failures of government in terms of service delivery, in terms of immediately reaching out to the needs of the people, that has probably had this go up, skyrocketed the price of politics? I would call it the price of politics, because like Raymond and Timothy did say, a member of parliament is literally an ATM machine. While you're walking through, someone is looking at, I want to withdraw 10,000 for burial. I want to withdraw this for maybe for school fees and whatever it is. And where does this lead us in the future? Because To an extent, would we in any way even be able to attach it to the quality of leadership? Or it's become a transaction? I give you, when the time comes, I will give you part, let me go, and then I can also start garnering my own.
I think even from the start and from the onset, the price of democracy is not a very cheap, is not a small one. The price of democracy is certainly humongous, so to say. But also that then trickles down to the individual and other political aspects of it. For my constituency, for me to go through, I look at anything about 500 to 600 million in Samia-Bugwe North, and this is not that I'm going to be buying off voters, but you're looking at things like even just traversing the entire constituency, the amount of fuel you use. You have to look at the number of vehicles you have on your trail, vis-a-vis the prices of fuel on petrol stations. It's way up there. So there are so many things that factor into all that, like how much you're going to spend as a politician, and you break it down to for instance, enabling people to come into circles to help them in agricultural projects, financial projects like circles and things like that, which is ideally empowering your community. And it's not even about buying for them soap and then giving them 1,000 for them to vote for you. It's just about like those projects you're setting. If you have to set up, say, we are in a culture of very many youth, you have to set up those football tournaments that bring very many people together to make sure that you can talk to them. And even if it were just moving from door to door. So when you break it down, it's certainly, you see that democracy calls for investment. You invest into it, and it's certainly not cheap. I have heard of very many, for instance, members of parliament who say, for me, I don't go for burial. I am not a burial politician. I am not the kind who is going to come and dance and whatever. And yeah, some of them get away with it, but there are communities where if you don't go for burial, it means a lot for you, for your candidature.
You don't care.
It means a lot. It means you do not even like have personal attachment to the people you lead. But also, Mildred, look at it from this angle, that as a leader, you are a custodian of quite many things in a community. Not only are you the custodian of leadership and guidance, but also these members see a certain level of security. You have to have so many security buffers around you. The financial security is one of those, that you do not just become a leader and then all of a sudden you're a leader and they're trying to tick off some of the things, and you are this kind who could not afford a shoe, but then you've become a leader and now you have these very many cars around you, you can park this and the other. In most cases, it has so many strings attached to corruption, that where have you accumulated all this money all of a sudden?
Yeah.
But if you are the kind of leader who can influence your community and you're speaking to them that I want to empower you financially, then you have to have the moral authority of speaking to empower them financially. So it's a whole tyranny of things that are tied around. In 2019, I did an investigative story about what causes these monetization of politics, and I moved quite across the country. I was in central Buganda. I went to Komansimbi. I was in Fort Portal. I went to Arua. I went to Busia, my district. I went to Tororo and Bale, and then I came to many districts within Busoga sub-region and all. But one thing was very unifying in the responses of most of my my correspondents. When they send leaders to parliament, and they are seeing all these money scandals, for instance, the most recent being the 100 million. When you come back to the community, it doesn't even matter whether you got or not. The people will be expecting that you have to share that money with them, because it's not, one, accounted for in the budget. It's not part of your salary. This is money that you've just been gifted. So gift us as well. We are the ones who put you in that position. So you account to us as much as you account to the entire country.
Yeah.
So with all those corruption scandals, the first thing an electorate is going to ask you is, what have you brought for us? Even before you begin articulating your policies, your projects, all your programs, they are asking, give us something, what have you brought for us? And it's going to be monetary.
Okay.
So it's okay. A very inherent thing about like the kind of politics we have, the kind of system we have in governance, that the winner takes it all, that you have, again, like you said, you have to give, knowing that when I get back to Parliament, I'll get back what I need, what I've spent. So it's a whole range of very many issues around.
The transactions that we were talking about. And ladies and gentlemen, as we go about with our media roundtable, well, remembering that today is Good Friday, the Holy Week is on, and of course the Easter weekend starting through. We have the Way of the Cross that has already started at All Saints Cathedral, right there, remembering the journey that Jesus did trek all the way to Golgotha, from where he had been condemned to death in exchange for another notorious criminal, that is Barabbas, according to the request of the people. So that is the imitation that is done to move with the cross throughout, trying to remember just how much pain Jesus Christ had to go through until he was crucified and later on buried and rose again after 3 days. So we'll as well be giving you updates of, and this is going to be done by quite a number of different religious sects. We'll also see the Orthodox, we'll also see the Catholics coming through, and they get to meet at one particular point where they have joint prayers coming through, and we'll be giving you those updates as they do stream through much later on as well. But still, continuing with the conversation here, let me come to Richard. When we think about this transaction, because it's clearly a transaction, give, get to a particular extent, but who stands to benefit when it comes to the issue of money and politics? Because when it comes to nomination fees, one would say maybe the party is trying to, amass as much money from the candidates who intend, which it will give back, because some of the political parties are expected to be able to contribute to their candidates or flag bearers campaigns. But also, on the other hand, for you who is parting with this money, who stands to gain from this exchange of money in our politics?
So the common string among my colleagues' the argument is that it is not cheap to engage in elective politics. But I also think it's not cheap to engage in non-elective politics, like a rebel movement or a coup. I don't think it's cheap. You can pay with your life. So I don't think taking positions of power comes easy. It's powerful, it's also privileged, and so it doesn't come easy. So I think that's one of the things. But two, I think when listening now, I thought maybe the British were clever to say you have the commoners with their house and the lords with their house. But now we mix the lords and the commoners, and so you are trying to look for a balance. Because I think they are outliers. There are people who have not really had money, who were broke, quite broke, and they came to Parliament. And the lower offices of the commoners are not expensive. the nomination fees for the commoners are not that expensive. So when you seek to rise, there is a cost to it. And in Runyankore we say, you don't belong to that. What are you looking for there? You broke guy, what are you doing? What do you want to go and do in our parliament? The moralists will tell me, oh, you know, they have ideas. What, poverty is, you know, what ideas? It's never going to say. These are our sayings.
Isn't that quite unkind? That,
I am not the one who started these sayings. It is a Uganda saying. Yeah. So some of these things, we also have to accept them, despite our moral outrage. We also have to be pragmatic and practical about them. Yeah, that's one. So why do I want a presidential candidate who can't raise 20 million, for God's sake? So I go and give you a convoy of 27 vehicles from not 20 million to I don't know what, controlling 54 trillion. There also has to be, this has to be reasoned a bit. It's like when people say, you see, we should allow an 18-year-old to contest as president. There is also a risk there. That we must face. Yeah. So while there is the rights, you know, freedoms, I think we also must think about the risk practically.
Okay.
Yes, we can't afford.
So we
not
stand
to
a risk if we make it affordable for everyone to come and join.
But you see, it's affordable. If you want to be a president, then 20 million is affordable. You are aspiring to be president. If you can't find 20 million, then really what are you doing there? So I don't want to remain on my moral outrage. Okay. I must move out of my moral outrage. And this, for me, this is what I take to the campaigns that I am into. Yeah, like when I come, the campaign is about driving. People are going to drink and drive. So we can't go and smile at them. No. Yes. So this is one of those things. The second one is again the acceptance that when you get into these places, you definitely financially gain.
Okay.
Way above the average.
What you spend.
Way above the average person of otherwise equivalent circumstances. The Chemonges is a lawyer, among other things. Yes, but there are very few lawyers in South, very few who can get 30 million every month. Very few. So if he enters parliament, he will get that money guaranteed with a 200 million vehicle. How many lawyers are driving vehicles of 200 million?
So it's okay for him to spend the 3 million for nomination, spend about.
You see, the value of what he's going for is such that it also has, so that's the other thing. Is that everyone tells you that the budget, even for a rural constituency, is more than $500 million. Mildred, to tell you to collect 500 million and go and distribute it among people, not knowing that you will come back, is very tall. It's a very tall order. I don't know if you have attended fundraisings. I attended one last night. For a huge school, to raise what you can't get 500 million. Yeah. You're happy. Yeah. So it's really costly. It has been monetized to almost exclusion. And this nomination.
And that's okay?
That's the nomination. No, you see, I keep telling you that when you take me to only the moral grounds, you are failing me to talk about the reality.
Okay.
Yes, I can go and say, oh, the people who are walking with the cross are holy. Those people walking the cross are holy. It reminds me of my Boys Brigade days. I used to pray Boys Brigade. I didn't care about the Holy Cross. I enjoyed the band. That's what would take me.
Yeah.
The limelight, I am among the people in front. You know, when they are going to eat, the bishop, where I sit some nearby, I eat good food with him. Wait. I don't want to just be more. Yes. And yes, I don't want you to put me down with moralization. So is it okay? Then I'm defeated. I will start apologizing. You see, it is not okay. But that's what is there.
Okay.
Why is it there? Why is it happening? This is why it is there.
Okay.
Yes, when you go to parliament, you immediately, you start getting 100 million. Let me tell you, Mildred, it is not every day that you get 100 million in Mpeke. No, we sit here, we are here, I don't know, veteran what, senior what, you don't get it. So we have to accept that the context we are in, the situation, moral or immoral, with our outrage, this is what it is.
It is. All right. And maybe later on we'll... Yeah, we do.
Jat might be forced.
No. Jat shouldn't be able to come for this one.
Yeah.
But we'll be giving you updates, okay? We'll be giving you updates on what is happening there. But...